Rudolf Steiner in his work. So the constitution of a human being is that we are constituted of a physical body, an etheric body, or what I also refer to as a chi body, an astral body, and an ego. This is what makes the human being. And the relationship of the four of them is such that during the day they are in a certain configuration or relationship to one another, and we are in a state of being awake, at least hopefully, consciously awake. And when we go to sleep at night, the ego and the astral body leave the physical body and the etheric body lying in the bed. And we abandon our physical and etheric body, and that constitutes the condition of sleep. Now, while we are awake, during the course of the day, our body is being destroyed. It undergoes a process of destruction. This is known as catabolism in a medical sense. And so we create a lot of toxins as a result. And these toxins, in the normal course of events, are eliminated through our urine and our bowel movement and our breathing and just general activity. But the body does break down during the day. Now, when we go to sleep at night, the desire to go to sleep indicates we wish to enter fully into the spiritual world, because we're actually in the spiritual world all the time, but we just don't realize it at this present time in our evolution. Many thousands of years ago, we did know that in our previous incarnations. Were aware of, consciously aware, that we are spiritual beings inhabiting a spiritual cosmos. But over the course of time, this has been lost, because while we were in the state of being consciously perceptive of and aware of our spiritual nature and our relationship to the spiritual beings of the spiritual world, we didn't have any self-determination. And so we had to sacrifice, in terms of our evolution, we had to sacrifice our consciousness of being spiritual beings inhabiting a spiritual cosmos. We had to sacrifice that in order to develop individual self-consciousness out of our own resources. That was the deal we had to make. And we're at that point in our evolution where we need to start to recover consciously our awareness of our spiritual nature. And that's another story. So, a pamphlet by George Asala on drugs. And he said, please, I really wish and request that you get off drugs. I said, no way, George. No way. Right? So I continue. My main substance use. I used the substances. I didn't abuse them. Was marijuana, cannabis resin. And one day, this was after I'd been macrobiotic about a year and a half. I did my usual ritual when I came home from work. I put on a pot of tea, have a muffin, and roll a joint and put on a record. That was my ritual, right? So I do this. This is like June of 1977. I started macrobiotics in November of 75. And what happened is I took a toke, and the next thing I know, it's dark, and the record is just going click, 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 click. And I came to consciousness, And I said, what the hell is the point of smoking this thing if you're not going to be awake to enjoy it? So I just stopped. Totally cold turkey. I just stopped. So the interesting thing about that from the point of view of yin and yang is that I'd stopped eating all this stuff. So when I took the drug, this took me way past Mexico City. You know, it took me into the stratosphere. And I became unconscious.
Whoa.
Okay? And it's really interesting that the guy, Francois Shelkins and his wife Madge, who of course I will be eternally grateful to, who introduced me to Macrobiotics, he said to me, if you do macrobiotics, you cannot do drugs because you will die.
Whoa.
And he is exactly right. If people in macrobiotics are taking drugs, they have to take something extreme young, like ginkgo leaf root or something to balance it, or try to balance it. It's not really. So the interesting thing here is this is a balance, but it's too extreme. Because if we were to say, just for illustrative purposes, this is not supposed to be scientifically accurate, that this ratio of yin to yang of sugar is like 500 to 1. It's very extreme. And if you go up to alcohol, it's more like 1,000 to 1. You go to drugs, it's more like 5,000 to 1. Now the dynamic of yin and yang of the human organism is 7 to 1 on average. You know, it varies between 10 and 7, 5 to 1. You know, this is taken from looking at the human organism in terms of the compact head and the expanded body, the size of the feet relative to the waist, and so forth and so on. All these rhythms that we have. And they turn out to be approximately 7 to 1. And in fact, 7 to 1 is a very, very spiritually significant rhythm. Things go in 7. We have 7-year cycle. You know, we go from 0 to 7 when we grow, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, so forth and so on. Of course, with women it's a little different. But that rhythm is very, very, very significant in the cosmos. So, what happens when we are subjected